Of recognition of the award and is recognized in the Ontario Golf Hall of Fame located here at Wooden Sticks. That seems like a bit of an oxymoron. Somebody recognizing somebody in the media. I love that. And gosh, it doesn't happen very often. Look at Rube, he's got his own award. Still living and he's got his own award. Love Lorne Rubenstein. Is Lorne here? Where the hell is he? It's his award. He's got to be writing about it somewhere. Anyway, I'm a great fan of Lorne Rubenstein's work, and he's a member, of course, here at the Hall. And our recipient is Ken McKee. He was born in Toronto, Ontario on September 2nd, 1932. He attended Queen's University in the early 50s, where he began writing sports for the school paper. Thus grew his love for writing. Ken began his sports writing career at the Globe and Mail in 1956, covering hockey and the Argos. He was then lured to the Toronto Star in 1965 when Milt Dunnell offered him the golf beat, and Ken jumped at the chance. This began a 37-year career of writing for the Star. He began writing the golf beat to becoming sports editor, helping introduce the Toronto Star Golf magazine in the late 70s. He became the map editor, and in doing so, had to count for the placement, phone numbers, and yearly green fees for close to 600 courses in Ontario. He worked diligently year-round to compile the GTA's most comprehensive map of golf courses for the Star's annual magazine, which is always a favorite, a must-have for local players. Ken wrote until 1997 when he retired from the Star. He had a long and prosperous career at a job he loved, writing sports, and he did it so very well. Unfortunately, due to health issues, Ken was unable to attend this evening, but I'd like to welcome Ken's grandson and passionate golfer, Max McKee, to the stage to say a few words on behalf of his grandfather and family. Please welcome Ken McKee to the Ontario Golf Hall of Fame. And the Lorne Rubenstein.
So good evening. Thank you very much. Obviously, I'm not Ken McKee. My name is Max McKee, and I'm here to represent my grandfather, Ken. Sadly, he's unable to attend, as was already mentioned, but we worked very hard on this speech as a family. My father, my grandmother, and my aunt, with my grandfather, guiding us and steering us, reminding us of neat moments and anecdotes from his long golf writing career. Mostly, we just wanted this speech to convey his sentiments and how much he enjoyed covering the sport. From amateurs to professionals, from high school sports to the Masters, he just loved getting there to be there to tell the story in his own way. He would have loved to be here to accept the award, but since that cannot happen, I'll do my best to portray this from his perspective. My grandfather is truly humbled and thankful to be chosen as the 2014 Lorne Rubenstein Award recipient. My grandfather has the utmost respect for his work. My grandfather is a dedicated family man, and he helped teach me some of the passions that comes with being a sports fan. Most visits to my grandparents' house entailed a game, or sometimes two on television. Whether it was hockey, baseball, NFL, or for sure a Sunday final round of golf, golf was his favorite, and this is one of the reasons I developed such a love for the game. I came along too late to benefit from the teachings of the late George Clifton, another Ontario Golf Hall of Fame member, but at some point when my father was around 12 years old, my grandfather somehow convinced George to give my dad a few lessons while he was working at the Bayview Country Club. To this day, my dad still claims that he got the fundamentals down, whatever those are, Dad, at an early age from just a few lessons with George Clifton. Now, I do have to give some credit to my dad. He's a good golfer. He wanted me to say that. Both my grandfather and my father's love for the game was passed down to me, so I thank you for that. What you may not know about my grandfather, Ken, is that there's not a fact or trivia question, or a mathematical one for that matter, that I could ask him that he did not know the answer to. Mostly because he, at some point in his long journalism career, had covered that sport. And when he put his mind to something, he wanted to know everything there was to know about it. He was thrilled to have a career and also make a living watching and covering something he already loved. He got to watch the careers of great Canadian athletes such as Marlene Street, George Knudsen, Gary Cowan, Sandra Post, Al Balding, Jim Nelford, and of course, the legendary Will Norman during their careers. For sure, he got to see some of their tumultuous times and struggles, but he was also there to watch their incredible success. My grandfather was there when Arnold Palmer won his first ever significant pro tournament at the Weston Golf Club, way back in 1955. He also attended 12 Super Bowls, 11 Masters, and so many US Opens that he couldn't remember the exact number. He was also at the World's Women Amateur Championship in Spain in 1970, watching Marlene Street compete against the world's best in women's amateur championships. He was even in the building several times when the Leafs hoisted Lord Stanley's Cup in victory in the early 1960s, something that I'll never experience. There were downsides too, like watching George Newton losing in the 1969 Masters by a single shot to George Archer while giving up, what was it my grandpa said? Something like 19 or 20 putts on the Augusta greens to the 6'6" American. And yes, he does remember everything, all the details. The people, the teams, the events, and of course the years. Like if you ask him who won the Masters in 1966, he would answer quickly, Nicklaus, of course. One of my father's favorite childhood memories is answering the phone and the voice on the other end saying, "Hey, it's Jack Nicklaus, is your dad home?" When Jack Nicklaus called the house for Grandpa. It was of course the Golden Bear calling to confirm an appointment. I think my grandfather had a special admiration for Jack, and I think that Jack had the same admiration for him, although my grandfather would never admit that, and he actually tried to get me to take this out of his speech. I know Jack was my dad's idol growing up, and still to this day, he thinks the greatest sporting event of all time was when Nicklaus came all the way back to win his 6th green jacket in 1986, capitalizing on Greg Norman and Seve Ballesteros' misfortunes, but had cries every time he watched the replay of anything from that day. My father also told me another story about a time when Grandpa came home after another meeting with Jack. Grandpa had brought an autographed photo for my dad, a box of Golden Bear golf balls, and Jack had even given my grandpa a Golden Bear golf shirt. Many people might own a Golden Bear golf shirt, but probably not too many have one given to them by the Golden Bear themselves. My dad was in awe of my grandfather sometimes. Although my grandfather's admiration for golf was a world affair, it is here in Ontario that he grew his love for the game. From playing courses like the Cliffside to the Elms, to Summerley, and more. Then his dream came true, when the late legend Milt Dunnell lured him to the Star from the Globe and Mail in 1965. The carrot? The golf beat, of course. A job he held until 1976, when the Montreal Olympics got in the way and propelled him to a department manager at the Star, and sadly away from writing for a few years. He never did get back to writing golf on a full-time basis, something that he regrets to this day. In that span, he pioneered the Star's leadership in maps for public courses, including green fees and locations. From a modest beginning, my now retired grandfather went from not only playing the courses as a young man with friends to covering sports as a writer, but then getting involved with the inception of the Toronto Star golf section in the 1970s. He became the maps editor, and in doing so, had to account for the placement, phone numbers, and yearly green fees of roughly 600 facilities in southern Ontario. This was not an easy task, as it was way before GPS was a common term. And he and a group of editors at the Star manually mapped and placed all the facilities on the maps. At some point in the mid-90s, the ever-popular yearly golf section was turned into a very successful and profitable magazine for the Star. And he continued working on the magazine and maps for many years after he retired from the Star in 1997. He has watched the change and evolution in golf. Back in the 50s, there were so few courses to play. Many were private, very expensive. Yes, there were a few public courses, but they too were beyond the means of most youngsters like myself. Today, there are just so many places for the average golfer to go and play, if he can afford it. It's been an incredible transition. While for sure, still an expensive sport, it's nice to see so many young people like myself taking up the challenge and getting a chance to enjoy all that golf has to offer. Whenever I needed a good suggestion on a course to play, I always called Grandpa. He knew every course in every area, and most of the owners too. He always had a good recommendation, and he was even offering me suggestions recently in the last few months on where I should go to work about finding myself a summer job. When friends ask Grandpa what his favorite event is in almost 50 years of covering sports, they're often surprised that the list is not led by hockey and the Leafs' 3 Stanley Cup wins, but by golf. My grandfather always found that golf offered a unique access to players that other sports often did not, such as phone calls from Jack Nicklaus to confirm an early breakfast meeting at a Mississauga hotel. Or when Gary Player was chatting with sports writers and sharing some of his most famous trade secrets, such as endless hours of practicing shots from bunkers while preparing for a tournament. Even though my grandfather is not here in person, he was able to write and edit and give so many great stories, as we all wrote this as a family together. To sum everything up, my grandfather would like to say this. Of all the years I have covered sports, and trust me, there have been a few, golf is my favorite. I have covered many fantastic golf tournaments, including the US Open, Canadian Open, and the Masters, in the company of Lorne Rubenstein, Jack Marks, Wally Crowder, and my longtime colleague, Rick Fraser. I was there when Marlene Street played in the Women's World Amateur in Spain. I was there too when Sandra Post beat the legendary Kathy Whitworth in the 19-year-old rookie in 1968 at Sutton, Massachusetts. I have seen golf in Ontario go from private country clubs like St. George's to today, where there are all sizes and shapes of clubs. Thanks to the design of builders like Doug Carrick and Tom McBrew, the quality of Ontario golf courses has been raised. There are even several unique courses, such as the Links course, Devil's Pulpit in Brampton, which is similar to British golf clubs, and Wooden Sticks here in Uxbridge, which features famous golf holes from all around the world. Now there are numerous driving ranges where anyone can play for the price of a bucket of balls or green fees. This has made golf more accessible to young athletes. In doing the golf maps for the Toronto Star, I have seen clubs mushrooming up all over the province, including resort areas such as Muskoka and Niagara, thus making Ontario a world-class destination for international players. One point I cannot avoid making is that Marlene Street is not a part of the Canadian Walk of Fame on King Street, and this is an enormous oversight. She is one of Canada's favorite players and should be honored on this path. After all, she is already in the World Golf Hall of Fame. She should be there, and now would be a great time for this to happen. If Marlene Street should be there, then there is no question another famous and extremely talented female golfer should be there as well, Sandra Post. In awarding me this honor, you've added the icing on the cake to a long career in riding sports. My congratulations go to all of your inductees tonight. I want to thank the Ontario Golf Hall of Fame for this prestigious honor, and to all the clubs, players, past and present. I couldn't have done my job without you. Thank you very much.
You know, Max, maybe your family can come up and get the, is that what we're going to do? Good job. Nice, great speech. Good luck hosting this event.